And just like that, we are at the last radio, the last day of the year 2022. So many things to celebrate, so many things to not celebrate, so many things to feel not so excited about. But it was a year that brought a lot of things into perspective. It obviously, hopefully, made a lot of us maturer or wiser. And now we stand at the doors of a new year, and therefore, this is time for another roundup, not only for a weekly roundup, but also for the yearly roundup to basically discuss what's happened in the field of Canadian immigration. Welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir. I am a CICC licensed immigration consultant. This channel is all about Canadian immigration news, updates, trends, things you should do, things you should not with your Canadian immigration application. And as I said, this is another episode, or rather a weekly roundup, and this time the yearly roundup for Canadian immigration. So let's get started. Starting with the quote of the week, the new year stands before us, a blank canvas. Paint on it the dreams you want to achieve, the plans you want to make, the happiness you want to chase, the moments you want to create, the love you want to give, and the people who you want to impact. The quote is, who was the person who quoted is unknown, but such a profound quote, such amazing words, and I guess it's self-explanatory. New year, new time, new opportunity, new canvas, new slate. Color it with your wisdom to see how you can impact people around you. This is the Canadian Immigration Weekly Roundup. Next episode, stay up to date on the trends and news on our different platforms, including TikTok. In today's episode, we will have different, obviously, topics, but PNPs and updates, the year 2022, and of course, we will go with the question and answers in the end. So therefore, I request you to please hold back your questions till we get to that stage. Starting with the PNP draws, nothing much happened within the last week. There was, of course, on the 21st of December, 10 days back, Ontario did issue the 725 letters of interest to the candidates under the master's graduate stream, which is always pretty good, which basically says that if you are at least considering to study in Canada, then Ontario is a great option, and of course, in addition to lots of other options as well. But with Ontario, if you are going to complete your master's or PhD, then you have a separate stream altogether, and you would, after completion of your program, within the 2 years after completion of your program, you may be eligible to apply under the master's stream. So that was the draw that happened on the 21st of December. Also, Ontario did, or rather, they do have the largest allocation of the PNPs or the quotas. They did issue 9,750 nominations in the year 2022. That quota was almost over by early December itself, but they said they continued to issue the nominations from their allocation for the 2023. Of course, the 2023 allocation at this point of time is not known for them. We are hoping it will be increased. And there was a Manitoba draw. What happened to the Manitoba draw? Okay, there was a Manitoba draw as well. They did issue 16 letters of advice to apply, and those primarily went to certain categories who were eligible under the Ukrainian relief programs. Now, the year 2022, this is obviously a roundup not only for this week, but for the whole year. So talking about the top immigration developments in 2022, on the 1st of November, which is more recent, IRCC announced its plan to welcome newcomers over the next 3 years. Now, newcomers doesn't always mean people who are outside Canada. It also means people who are not permanent residents, but who are temporary residents inside Canada. And Canada will look to welcome over 1.45 million new immigrants between 2023 and 2025. That's amazing. And making this the most impactful announcement of the year. Of course, we always welcome such announcements where they have finally announced to increase the quotas. This July, finally, we also saw the resumption of the Express Entry all program draws, which was a turning point for COVID recovery in Canada, of course. The draws, all program draws, were held back or were paused since December 23rd of 2020, when the last Express Entry CRS score draw was at 468. Since then, they put a pause onto the all program draws. They continued with the provincial nominee programs and the Canadian experience class draws, but even those, or rather the CEC draws, also were put on pause on the 14th of September. Now, from there on, express entry was primarily only for the nominations or the invitations for the provincial nominee programs, and it obviously did give a lot of stress and pangs or anxiety pangs to a lot of people. However, thankfully, they did resume on the 6th of July. Starting the 15th of November, which is just very recent, this was the announcement, international students who are currently in Canada or who had applied for their study permits or extensions of study permits on or before the 7th of October, they were now allowed to work full-time. They were no longer restricted to the 20-hour part-time work, and that was from the 15th of November. So if you are an international student in Canada whose application was approved, submitted before the 7th of October, then obviously you will be eligible to work full-time until the 31st of December 2023. So you have a whole year ahead of you. You can work full-time. Of course, this period of work will not be counted towards your Canadian experience class points or any other points for that matter. But no, actually, it does count towards the eligibility for federal skilled worker. So yeah, it doesn't count towards the CEC, CRS points, but yes, it does give you the opportunity to work full-time. That was pretty nice. Not only that, this year, IRCC also, in the month of August, announced that all the postgraduate work permits which were expiring from the 20th of September until throughout 31st of December 2022, the whole year now, and since the 20th of September 2021, those will be eligible for extension of 18 months, which was pretty cool. And also people who are out of status during this period of time, they were also allowed to restore their status without, having to worry about being illegal in the country. So this was pretty cool. And this is something which they announced this year as well. So great developments on those aspect of things. 3 immigration milestones from the 2022. Immigrants, of course, do make up for the record high share of the Canadian population. Duh. I mean, as if we didn't know that already. I mean, I'm not sure the numbers are correct here, because I think practically the huge portion of Canada is in all ways than none immigrant population. A lot of people may not like that, but that's the truth, right? I mean, it's the indigenous communities who are the natives, but everybody else, from whether it's the first generation, second, third, fourth, fifth, or whatever, are in some way or the other immigrants. But for the record, immigrants to Canada now make up to record high percentage of total population. 8.3 million people, 23% of the Canadian total population, are immigrants, defined by the Statistics Canada, of people who had previously been a landed immigrant or held a permanent residence in Canada. So yeah, I mean, we understand how they want to keep a record of this, which is fine, but technically almost most of the people are immigrants. So yeah, that's the record number again. Provincial nominee programs are set to overtake express entry as the top Canadian immigration pathway. Well, if you haven't realized that already, then you should understand that the quotas for next year, and we will talk about the immigration levels plan. And let me just see if I have the next slide on that. No, I don't. Okay. The next slide also says Canada sets immigration targets to nearly 500,000 newcomers by 2025. So that's great, but let's see this. This is the supplementary information of the immigration levels plan 2023 to 2025, which was announced on the 1st of November, which was great. And in this, what was great is because, one, they increased the quotas. It went up to 465,000 people for the year 2023. Earlier, it was lower to 451. More than that, what was important was, if you see under the federal high skilled, number one, the top category, it says 82,880. This number, earlier announced in 2022, was only 75,000. So there was a bump up in the express entry numbers by about 7,500 people approximately, which is of course good. So 7,500 more people means roughly, I don't know, what, 4.5, 5,000 ITAs additional can go out approximately. So which is, I mean, more ITAs is always a good news, because more ITAs means the score can somewhere be, curtailed. Then the federal economic public policies, this is something which has been misleading people a lot. because this was the TR to PR program. A lot of people thought TR to PR program will be returning back. And as I said, it will not be returning back. And of course, it didn't return back, kind of a thing. Let me just take care of this person here, throw him out, not needed here. Okay. And based on that, you also have federal business programs. Now, federal business program is also a good one in the sense like, it was earlier, the quota was only 1,000 people. This time it has gone up to 3,500. Again, good news, because that shows that they finally are paying more attention to those categories of people, especially the self-employed business category, as well as the startup visa. So that number going up means the application will be processed faster, as well as the fact that more people will be able to apply. Good news there. But the point I'm trying to make over here while we're discussing this is towards the sixth category, that is the provincial nominee program. That number is at 105,500 now. Earlier, that number was at about 85,000. So the number went up by approximately 20,000, which basically means 20,000 more PNP applicants would be able to apply or choose their pathway from permanent residence, which is amazing. In combination with the fact that 7,500 was added to the express entry, 20,000 added to the PNPs. In total, in the economic categories itself, roughly 27,000 people will now be able to immigrate additionally versus the numbers that were announced in 2022. So let's get back to this. So this was something that everybody who was out there will need to sort of keep an eye on, because so there were two predictions I made this year. One was that there will be no TR to PR, and of course there was no TR to PR. The second was that there will be a pause in express entry draws because of the NOC system changes, and it did happen. And though I'm not happy about it, but it did happen. But then it was all over the wall. It was for everybody to see, but people were not willing to accept that. Similarly, if you are a person who is interested in Canadian immigration, then you should know by now that it is going to become extremely difficult for people who are outside Canada. Even for people inside Canada, the pathways are no longer simple, straightforward, easy. They are going to be difficult. If you haven't realized by now, then I think you really need to brush up on understanding what the programs are looking like. And at the same time, also realign your path to sort of make things happen for you, because things are definitely not going to be easy as we move forward into 2023. Immigration is going to be more difficult. Having said that, PNPs, as I just told you, the numbers here, the numbers again, sorry, the PNPs have gone up by 20,000, which basically means the quotas will increase, which basically means I'm sure Ontario will get a very big share of this. So will Alberta, so will BC, so will Saskatchewan, which will all in combination help, because if Ontario gets a bigger share of nomination quota, that basically means they can conduct additional draws, whether it's human capital priorities draw or a French speaker draw or any of their other expression of interest based draw, which collectively means more people get a chance to sort of immigrate to Canada, which is, again, as I said, pretty good. Moving forward, what else happened here? Express entry. Let's talk about the express entry. What happened in 2022? The ministerial instruction shows a total of 23 draws were held in 2022, of which 46,539 invitations have been issued overall in total. And since the all programs draw have started on the 6th of July, total of 35,750 invitations have been issued. The last draw was on the 23rd of November, which is almost a month back. And this month of gap is obviously creating a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety yet again. Now, the next draw that we expect in express entry is, fingers crossed, on the 4th of January. And we're really hoping that IRCC does conduct the draw, because this pause is not helping anybody. Anyways, the most recent express entry draw which was held was, as I said, on the 23rd of November, and the score was at 491. And since the draws have started on the 6th of July, there has been a 66-point decline from the highest score that was drawn on the 6th of July, which was at 557. So the last draw was, as I said, on the 23rd of November. That was the 24th draw of 2022. So actually 24 draws have happened, not 23. My bad there earlier. This was the 11th all program draw. Score was 491. Total number of invitations issued were 4,750. And this was the pool breakdown. As of 22nd of November, people above 501 were 1,200, above 601, that was the people who got the nominations, 876. So what is going to happen is, and as we move here, this is the key analysis point, because the number of people who are adding into the express entry pool with the scores of 501, even at this point of time, for roughly 2,000, which basically means with this gap of more than 1 month, you can expect that number to be much larger. Also, so many provinces have finally issued their nominations, which they were holding back, but obviously which they had to issue. So there are so many people who are waiting with their nominations, but obviously the draws have not happened, so those have not been cleared out. Which basically means that the number of people in the pool with the score of 600 plus is also going to be much higher than what we have seen earlier. In combination, what I'm trying to tell you is on the 4th of January, if the draw does happen, which I'm really hoping that the draw happens, and if the invitations issued are still 4,750, I'm hoping there are more than that, but let's go with 4,750, then the CRS score is going to be in the range of 500. 501, 500, that kind of a score, pretty high. And when will the scores drop again back to 490s or below 490s? It will probably be late February. That's what I think. That's what the numbers are suggesting. And everything will depend on how many people are being invited in every single draw. Doesn't look pretty cool at this point of time, but then this is how the numbers game always plays out. Back to what we were talking about. 4 key immigration pathways that you can look at in 2023. Of course, the provincial nominee programs are going to be really big in 2023. The PNPs are set to overtake the express entry. I mean, the numbers we can tell you, there are 23,000 more PNP quotas. That is 105,500, which is here. As you can see, provincial nominee quota is at 105,500 and express entry is at 82,880. And therefore, with 23,000 more positions available, PNPs are going to be big. But in combination between PNPs and express entry, you are looking at nearly 180,000, about 170, 180,000 places available for you to sort of, use to get your pathways into Canada. Express entry in 2023. Now, that's another big thing that we are expecting, the changes in express entry that we are expecting. First big change that is anticipated is the actually the category-based draws. They will primarily not be specifically only knock-based, they would be categories. So the categories doesn't have to be only knock-based, they could have certain other components attached to it. For example, category 11111, I'm just saying for the sake of, just for the heck of it, this category, if your experience is in this category and if your CLB level is at least CLB 9 and if you have at least a master's degree, then you are in this category, and people in this category would then be invited. So while it would be occupation based, while it will be knock based, in my opinion, there would be certain other components that would be attached to that category as well. It will only not specifically be knock based. That's what I am assuming. But again, that announcement will come only in February, when IRCC will, through Sean Fraser, Minister of Immigration, will announce the categories by the 5th Parliament sitting day in the month of February, after the 31st of Jan. And once that happens, we will have so much more clarity as to what would be the knock-based draws or the category-based draws. And from there on, we can then freak out if we have to, or start preparing and planning and realigning our pathways if we have to. IRCC is also, we're also anticipating they will be targeting candidates who have specific occupational experience, language skills, and of course, the educational background. So that is a big change that is anticipated in 2023. In addition to that, there is also very high possibility of express entry being revamped entirely. Now, when I'm saying possibility of being, now, earlier this year, IRCC did introduce a document called the Strategies to Expanded Pathways for Temporary Residents to Become Permanent Residents. In that, they have indicated that they're already reviewing possibilities of revising the express entry point system. Now, by saying they're revising the express entry point system, I'm assuming they're not going to reduce the points for sure. This basically means that they're going to be looking to improve or increase the points. possibly, again, these are all speculations at this point of time, but possibly for Canadian education, Canadian work experience, job offer, and these would be the most significant criteria where I expect that the points will be revised. We have to just wait and see what kind of changes will that make. But this is something which we are really anticipating will happen in 2023. Okay, parents and grandparents program for people who are interested, that will also resume hopefully in 2023. This year when it opened, it basically did not allow any new applicants. All it was doing was taking the same pool from the year 2020 and inviting those people. So this would definitely make a big difference. Also in 2022, IRCC has finally announced the changes to super visa excuse me, which meant parents and grandparents of individual permanent residents or eligible permanent residents and Canadian citizens would now be able to apply for super visa, based on which they can now stay in Canada for 5 years at a stretch and then apply for extension for 2 years, making their stay in Canada as temporary residents to 7 years, which helps a lot of people in reuniting with their parents, grandparents, and that's pretty cool. This year, as I said, for the parents, grandparents, permanent residents pathway, they would be inviting 28,000 people. So hopefully that program should come through sometimes later 2023. International students in 2023. Now this is another, this announcement was obviously made earlier this year in November. In October, and it was implemented from 15th of November, whereby international students were allowed to be able to work in Canada, and that was full time. But your application had to be, you had to be able to have applied your applications before the 7th of October. But that also gives them a lot of opportunity to work. And at the same time, Canada was just trying to make sure that they have looked after the labor market shortage in Canada itself. Reminders, and this is a very big one for a lot of you out there. Now, a lot of people in Canada obviously were eligible to apply for extensions of the postgraduate work permit. Now, you have to keep in mind, postgraduate work permits are, okay, you cannot extend them, basically. So this was like a one-time public policy, which was earlier announced in 2021 and then again announced in 2022 to sort of help not only people, but also Canada because of the labor shortages that Canada was facing. Mind you, don't ever fall for the narrative that it was meant for people. It was always meant for Canada, never meant for people. But this is how Canada has identified ways and means to address their immediate labor market shortage. And this is what is helping, of course, as a byproduct, people also. So if you were an individual whose work permit, postgraduate work permit, expired between the 20th of September or is expiring today, 31st of December, throughout this period of time, then either you should have already applied for your postgraduate work permit extension, or if you are waiting to receive it from IRCC and you still haven't received it, then in my opinion, my suggestion, I would recommend that you apply for it anyways as a backup. Okay, sometimes IRCC behaves in a very strange manner and you do not want to be on the losing side of things. So my recommendation to you is that if you haven't applied for your postgraduate work permit yet and you're simply just waiting to receive it from IRCC for whatever the reason might be, you haven't received it, then I would suggest that go ahead and apply for it. Now, the deadline is at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. I know a lot of people think that 31st December means until midnight Eastern Standard. No, that is not true. All IRCC deadlines, all IRCC timelines are as per the UTC time zone, which is about 5 hours ahead of us. Okay, so that basically means the timeline will end 31st of December at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you are one of those people who are still dilly-dallying about their postgraduate work permits extensions, then my suggestion, it's not a lot of money, just go ahead and apply for it. In the best case scenario, if they issue you a work permit anyways, they will cancel this work permit, they will refund your fee. What are you going to lose? And the worst case, if they don't issue this one and they process this one, at least you would have a postgraduate work permit with the extension of validity of 18 months, which will take you through, and hopefully you'll be able to find a pathway then. So don't let go this one. You still have roughly 7 hours ahead of you. Make sure you make use of this one. This was very, very important. Also, for people who are looking to file under the home support and home child care provider pilot, this is again a very big stream in which a lot of people, especially from India, Pakistan, do apply, and this is where they apply under the child caregiver strategy, or sorry, child caregiver stream. In this particular stream, you don't really need to have a lot of qualifications. You just need to be able to establish and prove that you have a job offer from an employer in Canada. That job offer, that employer could be your relative, could be your sister, could be your brother, could be anybody. As long as you have the work experience to be able to look after the children, you have some qualifications, you have some background, you will be able to apply under the child caregiver program. There is also home support worker pilot as well. For both these categories, I would recommend you please take a look at the criteria and the qualification details on the IRCC website. But the most important factor is that this stream will open at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow morning, 1st of January. And the child caregiver stream usually gets filled up very, very quickly because there is only a quota of 2,750 applications there. Now, this year, what they have further done, they have broken down that quota into 2 further caps. So the gaining experience category is 1,650 applications, and direct to permanent residence stream has 1,100 applications. So 1,650 is the category of people who are outside Canada, who have no work experience in Canada, which basically means your quotas from 2,750 has further reduced to 1,650. If you are an individual who's outside Canada and looking to apply for permanent residence through this pathway, this is a great pathway, by the way. And for people who have been able to, wait and prepare for this one, this is your cue. Please make sure you're all ready to press the submit button by 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bear in mind, this stream will close very, very quickly. It usually closes within very few days. This time, I'm even assuming it might close within 1 or worst case 2 days possible. So make sure all your documents are ready. Make sure you have prepared every single thing that you need to, and you're ready to submit tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What to expect in the year 2023? Well, oh, wow. What are your thoughts? What are the possibilities? What's going to happen? There are so many thoughts. There are so many things. In my opinion, it's becoming more difficult. It has become more difficult. It will continue to be more difficult. The biggest beneficiaries of this, if you are looking, if you're asking for tips as to what should you do, what should you be looking to do, what you should have done, or what you can possibly do, in my opinion, French is going to be the biggest factor that can help you. What does French do for you? French as a second language can improve your points in express entry. French as a language, if you have those points, can help you through the PNP programs. For example, Ontario has a French speaker program. Saskatchewan gives you up to 10 additional points because you have French as a second language. New Brunswick has a program. Nova Scotia is preparing a program. Alberta, British Columbia are preparing for programs. Quebec, of course, is primarily French there, so you can apply there. In combination of all that, once you do come to Canada, French is also going to help you because you will become more employable. Being bilingual, having French skills as your language also will help you finding your gainful employment pretty quickly. So French is definitely going to be very, very big. Second would be the PNP programs. They're going to be huge in the sense like, once IRCC issues or once IRCC has identified their categories, the new Bill C-19 categories under which people would be invited, PNPs would have to realign their programs so that they are not the same programs as what IRCC's programs are. As of right now, we know a lot of PNPs are NOC-based or category-based. And if IRCC is doing the same thing, then obviously PNPs would have to, re-engineer or redesign their program so that they can identify people who they are most interested in, who they will bring into their provinces. So expect changes to happen in PNPs as well. Already there were a lot of changes this year. After the NOC system, the tier system was introduced, BC PNP changed their scoring criteria, whereby they started giving you more points if you were further away from Vancouver. Similarly, Ontario did the same thing for their expression of interest-based systems. The point system was changed, giving you more points if you were in the northern part of Ontario. So expect similar changes to come from different provinces. Saskatchewan had already introduced a new program called Hard to Find Skills program, and primarily identifying people who are in certain occupations who otherwise are pretty hard to find. So expect more similar streams, programs, changes coming from PNPs. And by Jove, if you are one of those people who does get an invitation, Don't let it go. Same thing happened. I mean, Ontario conducted a human capital priorities draw on the 20, I forget the date, I think it was 21st or earlier. And a lot of people who got invited were with the scores of 490, 484 to 490, 486 to 490, something of that score. If you got invited, please do not wait for express entry draw to happen. It obviously will happen at some point of time, but the scores can stay very high. If you're in the 480s, you got an Ontario PNP, absolutely run with it. Don't wait at all. Don't even think for a minute that express entry is still an option. Of course, it is an option, but in your case, you already have a ticket. Take it, run with it. Similarly, as we move forward, if you get invited, take that. I know express entry is always waiting around the corner, and you might think you might get invited. At this point of time, with so much of uncertainty that you have with the whole express entry, you get invited, you go with it. Don't wait and think, what should I do with this and that? But these are the biggest factors that you can look at in 2023. In addition to that, mind you, people who are inside Canada who always thought that that was a sure shot pathway, it is not correct. And I will show you some things. First of all, I will show you something about the French aspect of things. And what is on your screens right now is a mandate letter. So I'll just scroll it up right up on the top. This was the mandate letter issued to the Minister of Immigration, Sean Fraser. And okay, sorry. And here, as I'll just scroll down, because I don't want you to read the whole letter right now. You can find it on the internet as well. One of the points that was given to him was continue working with Quebec to support the French language knowledge of immigrants in Quebec, respecting provincial jurisdiction and complementing existing measures, and continue to implement an ambitious national strategy to support Francophone immigration across the country. So this is your cue, which tells you that mandate letter itself that was given to Sean Fraser, the Immigration Minister of Canada, itself indicates that Francophone immigration is going to play a big role as we move forward. But the other aspect of things that we were talking about. Now, this is on your screen, a document called, let's see what it is called. It's called a strategy to expand transitions to permanent residency. Now, this was a document, 39-page document that was issued by IRCC in response to motion M44 in the month of, I think, September. A lot of people didn't read this document. I, of course, just chewed every single word on this document. And as I go below, and this is where I want to draw your attention. Okay, and this is where IRCC has said a lot of things. You have to just read between the lines. Here it is. It says, for example, and this is example, in 2021, not 2022, 1 year earlier, in 2021, there were roughly 444,800 study permit holders and 415,000 work permit holders. That is already 850,000 people who were in Canada as temporary residents and who were looking to get pathways for immigration. Okay, and it's saying that, highlighting that there are not enough spaces to permit all temporary residents to obtain permanent residencies in given year. So this was in 2021. 2022, this number is much higher. There are nearly 700,000 international students in Canada. There are nearly 600,000 work permit holders in Canada, which is bringing the number to much more than 1.2, 1.3 million people, which tells you that with so many people, 1.3 temporary residents in Canada and only roughly 200 some thousand as the economic immigration quotas for the year, there aren't enough places. It is not going to work. It is not going to happen. It is an imbalance. For some reason, people just don't get the grasp of that situation. It is an imbalance. The numbers are not in anybody's favor. Therefore, even if you are inside Canada, you have to make it work for yourself. Don't hope and expect a CEC draw will happen, a low score will come, and then I will get through. It may not happen. And even if it will happen, even if a CEC draw happens, it will be right at the top. It will be pretty high. Currently, the draws that are happening that you are seeing, the 490s, the 500s, most of them are for CEC applicants. Most of them. There might be a few numbers which are for people who have a job offer, but majority, and of course the Francophone, French-speaking skills, but majority of the invitations are going to the CEC candidates. So why are you expecting that the scores are going to drop below to 450s, 440s, 410s, below 400s? It's not looking like it's going to happen. It happened in 2021 because they had to achieve their immigration quotas. They do not have any such condition, any such restrictions, any such incentive, any such motivation at this point of time. IRCC, Canada, will always do what is most important to them as a country for their benefit. And if you're looking that you would get a benefit of that, then you have to be right at top of the whole game. You have to have high scores. Now, also read the whole thing. It is also important to recognize that temporary residency is granted in its own right, either for studying or working temporarily in Canada. It basically means the document is saying very clearly, you came to Canada as a temporary resident. That doesn't mean anybody guaranteed you a permanent residence in Canada. And therefore, if you're looking for a pathway to permanent residency, you would have to make it work for you. Don't expect it as a right. It would be something which you will have to work towards. You would have to get your points. You will have to be eligible in a program. You will have to get a PNP support. You will have to get an employer support if you have to. Otherwise, you are fighting amongst 1.3 million people in 2022, and the number will only grow as we go in 2023. Last but not the least, this document had only one small paragraph for the people who are not inside Canada. Let me just shut this down. This whole document of 39 pages had only one small paragraph for people who are outside Canada. And it says, in addition, it is important that Canada continues to offer some, it doesn't say all or it doesn't say a lot, it just says some pathways to attract those with diverse skills, backgrounds, and talents among those globally who may wish to immigrate to Canada without previous work experience or study experience in Canada. It tells you this, these 3 lines on this in this entire 39-page document tells you that the emphasis, that the importance is henceforth as we move forward is going to be more and more and more on the people who are inside Canada. Yes, there will be pathways available if you are outside Canada, and that is primarily going to happen through some PNP programs. It is going to happen through some programs within Express Entry itself, but the scores are going to be remaining very, very high. So if you are looking for a pathway, then it's going to be either PNP or it's going to be through your French as a second language, or for you to have some Canadian component in your profile that will make it easier for you. If you still haven't realized that how difficult this is going to be, then I mean, I'm not sure what else to sort of how better to explain this to you. But this is how the outlook for 2023 is looking like. Of course, what I'm trying to tell you is not very optimistic, not very bright, not very positive, but it is the truth. It is the fact. It is the reality. If you can see it, then great. Otherwise, you will realize it in the days to come anyways. But at this point of time, well, there's a comment which is interesting. It says, it's total BS to exclude outland talent. This is how they will keep losing top talent to the US. Well, you are saying this is because you are assuming that they don't already have talent inside Canada. That is what you are assuming. But at the same time, there is also what I just read for you here in this document. It says is that, hold on, where did it go? No, not this one, yes. And here it also tells you is that, sorry about that. I gotta remove my face from here. Yes. In addition, it is important that they will still have some pathway so that they can still attract some talent from those who are outside Canada. Now, how small this number is going to be, we don't know. Obviously, it's not going to be a very big number. And also what you sort of say as talent and how they are not able to make it, that is always going to be ambiguous. That is always going to be subjective, because there are a lot of companies who will identify such people if they are adding direct value to their company, to their marketplace. Then those would obviously get a job offer anyways, and they would be able to come. But I agree with you. I agree with you to the extent that this does not help a lot of people who would have otherwise come to Canada and would have contributed immensely by way of their talent, their skills, and this way they would probably be left out. But at the same time, there are 1.3 million people in Canada as of right now, a lot of whom will not be able to get through their permanent residence primarily because the numbers are not in their favor. And some of them may also be exceptionally talented. So it's basically the both sides of the scheme that is not really playing out very well. But then at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind that it's all a numbers game. The numbers have to balance out. There is the quotas, there are the targets, and then there is the huge demand outside. Why was the scores so low earlier? Why were the scores? I mean, I can never ever forget. 31st of May 2017 was the best day in Express Entry because the scores dropped below to 413, 413. Why did the scores drop to 413? The total number of invitations issued were about 3,900. The total number of people in the pool were only 42,000 people, only 42,000. Today, the number of people in the Express Entry pool, do we have that number? Let me see. No, I don't have that number yet. But that number is about 240,000 people, 200,000 people more. Now, with 200,000 people more and people being able to score very high on the Express Entry factor points, the scores are higher. So this is just basic, simple, straightforward math. Nothing much there to sort of, whack your brains with. But that's how it's going to always play out. It's always going to be at the end of the day, IRCC cannot know anybody personally. They cannot know anybody individually. So they will have to sort of lay down a benchmark, assess everybody on the same benchmark, and then pick the most beneficial profiles with the perspective of benefit of Canada. And if yours is one of those profiles, you get invited. If yours is not, then you obviously have to upgrade yourself in the sense of skills or your points to come to that point where IRCC can invite you. But this is how it's going to play out, and this is how it is. I know a lot of you will not like what I'm saying, but then I would rather say it out the way it is rather than to please you at this point of time. That's not the idea. The idea is to sort of lay it out as it is, bare, naked, so that you can see for yourself and then make a decision. Because at the end of the day, keep in mind, Canada is not the end of the world. There could be better opportunities for you out there. There could be better countries for you out there. There could be better places, better things that you could do. Canada could just be your shiny object, which is distracting you for some time. But then when you put your head and mind to it, you realize it's not meant for you. So while you should pursue, if Canada is the dream that you have, then you should pursue, you should make it happen for you. But you also then need to realize the numbers. You also need to realize the realistic opportunity that it presents. And if you can still make it happen, I absolutely sort of, hats off to you, kudos. And I hope to see you in Canada someday. And if not, then I wish you all the very best. And I hope the life takes you to the journeys that you are looking forward to and brings you to the better opportunities that you very well deserve. That's basically my wish for you. Saying this, I wish each and every one of you a very, very, very happy new year and a very, very promising forthcoming year. And I hope this helps you fulfill all your dreams, all your aspirations, all your goals, all your objectives. And if anything else, we should have only learned from our mistakes and all the lessons that we should have learned from in the year 2022 and utilize in a better manner as we move forward in 2023. Connect with us on social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, of course, on TikTok as well. And if you are still here, then boop the like button and let's see this video going out to more people, first of all. And if you still haven't subscribed to the channel, then please do subscribe to the channel so that we can absolutely get out there. Thanks for your honesty. Well, that's the only thing I can promise you. If you are watching any of my episodes, that's one thing that I definitely promise you. I will not mince my words. I will not misguide you. I will not mislead you. I will not try to paint a brighter picture just for the sake of pleasing you. I would lay it out to you as well as bare as possible. If you like it, I would love it. If you don't like it, I would still like to see you for what it is and not sort of hope for anything otherwise. So I'm glad you think that I was being honest, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Pranav, CEC applicant was on ICT and claimed job offer points, transferred back to India after AOR. Does his PR application eligibility change because of this change after AOR? No, it doesn't change as long as he still has, or rather is under the employment of that company who offered him the job and intends to hire him. If that changes, then yes, IRCC may want to withdraw the points that you got. If that situation hasn't changed, if your job offer hasn't changed, then there is no change at all. You will still get those points. Thank you for being factual with it, particularly with the most temporal residents who had hopes that this would be much more easier once you're here. Well, actually, even for the international students who are now looking to come to Canada, even if you are a person who's thinking, I will come to Canada and I would be able to do it, even for those people, I would like to tell you right now itself, it's not going to be easy. It would be easy if you already have very high points. Let's say you are already at 460, 470. Let's say you're already there. And then you want to come to Canada, you choose to come to Canada to study in Canada, and then take work experience points, and therefore that will obviously push your points further. And that gives you an opportunity in express entry. However, express entry is due to change, and we do not know what kind of changes express entry is going to bring. It could bring changes in the sense of category based draws, or it could bring changes in the sense of the points being revised. In both aspects, PNPs are going to be the way to go, even if you're inside Canada. And the biggest factor that is required for a PNP is a support from the employer. If you have support from the employer, even if you're outside Canada, you can secure an LMIA or a job offer from an employer that helps you. You get 50 points, you get 200 points, you move ahead, and you get ahead of the queue, get your invitation. Even if you come to Canada, you get an employer who's going to support you in the PNP. Again, you're able to apply under the PNP program. But regardless of whatever I'm saying, in the sense like if you're outside, you're inside, you get invited, you just move with it, and that's the most important factor. My score is 489. Do I have to change to be invited before Bill C-19 come into effect? I do not know what change you are referring to here. I mean, if that is your score, then that is your score. Wait until February when the announcements for the categories are made. So you will then know what the categories are, and based on which, what would be the opportunities you may have. What are the chances to get positive LMIA depending on occupation and area? If yes, can I expect positive results if in Toronto with retail store supervisor? You can. I've seen plenty of LMIAs being. I mean, we in our company itself, we've had certain employers for whom we have applied for LMIA applications, and we have been successful, even for the position of retail store supervisor within the Toronto GTA area. So I don't see that as an issue, as long as you're able to establish and prove that you were absolutely unable to find the required candidates. What are the chances? Well, okay, guys, I am not telling you what are the chances for individual scores. I can't do it. I mean, there is no exact science. There is no formula to tell you, okay, this score, yes, there is a chance. This score, there is no chance. This score is a difficult chance. I can't tell you. The numbers are in front of you. You can do a worthy trends analysis yourself. It's not rocket science. At this point of time, until the draws happen, until the invitations start getting issued, there is no way of saying what gets invited, what doesn't get invited. It will continue to be out there, uncertain as in how the things go. I emailed my previous supervisor for a job reference letter from last year. They have not responded to my email. Is there any other way I can prove my work experience for that company? I have done plenty of videos, detailed videos on what you can do to provide work experience documents. Please, I request you to watch those videos because that will be much more detailed. Or this, I cannot give you that much of information, but we have done this. There are ways and means of doing it. You can provide your company's job description. You can get it done from your manager and have them write it for you, and use this emails that you've been exchanging with your employer to say that their employers were unresponsive. So combination of all of this you can provide, but watch those videos. Those have much more details in terms of what you can do. What are your thoughts on cybersecurity knock and candidate with job LMIA? Would this be considered? Well, I would just say wait until February when the categories are announced, and then you would have a much better understanding of what has a chance and what looks more difficult. Will be applying for inland spousal sponsorship, waiting for birth certificate, 6 months stays, validity ends on 6 March. Can I stay back if spousal sponsorship is in process? Should I cross border and enter CA again? Okay. Crossing border means you want to go to Canada, you want to go to USA and returning back. So going to USA and returning back does not give you the extended validity. Going to USA is not considered having exited Canada. That is number one. Number two, you can simply apply for extension of your visitor stay in Canada, apply for a visitor record, and that is absolutely fine. That way you can keep your status as valid in Canada. When Atlantic Express Entry program will resume? Well, there is no such thing as Atlantic Express Entry program. What are the different ways where international students from Atlantic provinces can apply for PR? International students in Atlantic provinces can apply for PR through the PNP programs in the specific Atlantic provinces, through the AIP Atlantic Immigration Program if your employer is designated, and through Express Entry if your CRS score is high enough. Application cancelled, as IRCC says. I did not upload the marriage certificate, but I did upload what to do. Well, you can take screenshots of your application and you can request for reconsideration. In the meantime, create a new Express Entry profile and wait for the next draw. But if you did upload the marriage certificate, also check if the marriage certificate was indeed the required format that it should be. If it was a marriage certificate which was not as per the required format, in the sense like if it is a marriage certificate issued by a temple, a mosque, a church, or any religious institution, but not from the registrar of marriage, then those are not considered as valid. So make sure that yours was valid as well. My knock is, and it is regulated. I'm applying from India. Do I need to apply for license for PNP like Saskatchewan? You don't need a license for express entry. For provincial nominee programs, you will have to check the individual nominee program criteria and requirements and then apply as per that stream. What's the application process time for LMIA PR stream once we file an application to ESDC? I think it's about 15 or 20 days for the PR stream, but you can check on the website. I think they have updated the processing times, and they're pretty much accurate as to what they show there. Thank you for clearing it out. It's just sad for us with scores of 478, spent so much of time and money for Canadian Dream. French will take at least a year. Birthdays are a nightmare now. I absolutely agree with you. But see, it's the same thing, right? I mean, this is how it goes. Not everybody wins a lottery, but in order to be eligible to win a lottery, you have to buy a lottery ticket. It's as simple as that. If you haven't bought the lottery ticket, you cannot get a lot. I mean, you cannot win the lottery, right? And in order to buy the lottery ticket, you will have to spend the money. And the lottery operators are not going to tell you that you spent money for lottery tickets, so that is the money wasted. So this is something which you have to come to terms with, and understanding that if you wish to get somewhere, you will have to put in some time, effort, money to get there. And then making sure that you stay right at top of the things. If the scores are lacking, then you add what needs to be done. If it's a job experience lacking, then you add what needs to be done. And at this point of time, if it is French, then mind you, French can add up to 60 points in your express entry scores. So even if it takes a year, it would help. Even if it takes a year and express entry draws are going somewhere else, even then the PNP programs are a possibility. So don't write off French as the option. It has great opportunity in the long term. All right. Let's go up here. Do you have a chance to get an IT with a score of 519 before the implementation of Bill C-19? Well, it is assumed that the next draw should be next week on the 4th of January. And if that happens, that score is pretty much doable. What is the medical and proof of fund requirement for inland CEC applicant who got NOI from Ontario Tech Human Capital Priorities? Can he move to other provinces after accepting Ontario? Well, moving to other provinces, that is a risk you will take, in the sense like you are going to be expressing your intention to reside in that province. So the idea is that you should reside in that province after you get your PR. Before getting the PR, you move to any other province. Of course, you can move. There is no problem as long as you're able to satisfy the requirement of the province when they ask you what is your intention to live in that province. So that's fine. As far as medicals and proof of fund requirement is concerned, if you are a CEC applicant, which basically means you have a valid 1 year of Canadian work experience within the last 3 years, then the proof of fund requirement does not apply to you for express entry. It does apply for you for Ontario still. And if you have an employment or job offer, then you can provide your salary, your job offer, to show that it equates to the proof of fund requirements. As far as the medicals are concerned, if you have undertaken medicals within the last 5 years and you have a copy of that, and you're inside Canada, then you can use that. You don't need to undertake medicals at this point of time. Okay. We did this. Can an applicant outside Canada accept an Ontario PNP through express entry stream after having received a CSQ? Yes, absolutely. There is no problem. There are 2 different streams, 2 different programs. You can definitely accept and go ahead with that. No problem with that. My study permit and my spouse's open work permit expired on the 30th of December. We both applied for study permit extension and spouse open work permit on 24th of September. But till now, there is no update from IRCC. Okay, so the question here is, I don't know what the question is, but I mean, so basically it means you are on an implied status since you applied for the extensions before the expiry, and you will continue to be on implied status until the decision is made on your application, and until such time, your conditions would be as per the original permit. Okay. So what's the current state of express entry pool? Why were the draws never resumed, and why was there no update from IRCC regarding the entire system crashing with NOC 2021? Well, I did give you that update myself, in the sense, like, I mean, I did predict, if you want to call that word, though it is not the right word, and I'm not rejoicing that at all, but I did indicate that this is a possibility. This was a strong possibility. On the contrary, I was saying that this is almost going to happen, because it has happened before. There is precedence. IRCC's systems, the GCMS systems that they use, the express entry system that they use, are not robust. They are not very good platforms, and because of that, even small changes in the system can lead it to crash. And I was absolutely certain this is going to happen, and that's what I've been telling people, this was going to happen. I think went wrong with one date, but IRCC conducted the draws on that date. They shouldn't have conducted, because a lot of people who should have received the ITA excuse me, did not receive the ITA, and a lot of people who shouldn't have received the ITA received the ITA. Obviously, IRCC, you don't expect IRCC to come out and say, yes, guys, sorry, we had a problem, and yes, we had a crash, and yes, this happened, and blah, blah, blah. They're not going to do that. If they do that, then they're opening up themselves to more judicial reviews and people then going after them and obviously filing some cases in the court. So they're not going to come out and say all these things. But this is what has happened. People have seen it. There was a lot of people whose profiles got changed. They were losing scores. And as of now, in my understanding, from most of the things that I know at this point of time, the glitches are almost resolved. It's now more than a month and a half later. The glitches are almost resolved. In most cases, I haven't heard of any recent glitches at all. So I'm hoping, with that understanding, that they would resume the draws on the 4th of Jan. Do you believe draws will restart before Bill C-19? Of course, the draws will restart before. Bill C-19 is not going to happen until maybe April, May, at the most. So, of course, the draws will resume. I mean, in my opinion, of course, the draws will resume. There is no way it won't. My wife is applying under CECs. Do I need to provide reference letters for my job outside Canada? Do we get points for that? You do not get points for foreign experience for a spouse. So whether you want to provide the documents or not is entirely up to you. How long do you estimate the processing to complete in Federal Skilled Worker Program? Is website estimate to be replied upon? Any applications which are being submitted after the month of July this year, most of those applications are seeing the processing times of 6 months and under. What happens to other occupations after IRCC announces the demand occupations? Does it mean people of other occupations stop their expectations? Well, that is exactly what happens. For people whose occupations are not in demand, they would have to look at other pathways, other options, other alternatives. IRCC would have the draws at the federal level, and when they will make these announcements, this will happen in February. They may not be the announcement for the whole year. They may be for a few months, and then they will change again. So it's not like all the occupations would go down to zero. In my opinion, there would be certain occupations which would be priority at certain point of time, and then those will change. And each year, those numbers those occupations will change. And in the meantime, you will also see invitations or the program changes happening from the provinces, and provinces are also going to realign themselves. So while you may not have an option from express entry or federal programs, you may have an option from the provinces. But all these, right now we are speculating, right now we are just assuming, right now we are talking out of the thin air. We don't really know what is going to happen and how it's going to happen. The best thing to do would be to have this discussion come February, when the announcements have been made, because then we would have a much more clearer and a better idea of how this has to go forward. Well, a very happy new year to you as well. Okay, last few questions before I scoot off. Does the employer have to get the LMIA first approved before giving the applicant the job offer? Well, if it's an unnamed LMIA, then they have to get the approval first. If they already identified the employee or the person prospective, then they can submit that information to ESDC while making the LMIA application, and the applicant's name is indicated on the LMIA in that case. What are the processing times? We've just done that. Okay, last question before I scoot off. I need to update my EE profile with NOC 938888 as I got PNP with 4-digit NOC code. But can I update it post ITA? Because I see a lot of profiles becoming ineligible after updating. You should keep your primary knock code same. You should keep your work experience knock code same if you can, if you don't need to change that. For anything else, you can mention 93888, and you should do it only after you get your ITA, not before that. Before ITA, your profile will definitely become ineligible. So yeah, do it only after you get your ITA, and keep your primary knock code the way it was, if you can keep it. And for any changes you make sure you add a letter of explanation. All right. Right, so that's basically it for today's roundup. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We would like to see those numbers going up. The numbers have really been dwindling now, but then I have to also make some more videos, right? So gotta do that as well. Do follow us on Instagram as well. That's where we post most of our updates sooner than later. If you wish to make an appointment one-on-one to discuss your background, your profile, your case, your application, then that is the link. Please, you're most welcome to book an appointment, and we can discuss that much better. That's basically all that I have for today. Thank you so much for joining in, and I shall see you next time. Take care.